Each of the last two Heisman winners have won the award their sophomore season. But will this be a trend going forward? These are the top 10 candidates for the John W. Heisman Memorial Trophy. I wasn't respectful to Chandler Morris last video, and I'd like to apologize for that by including him in my top 10 Heisman candidates. If you don't remember, he was in fact the starting quarterback for TCU last year until he got injured week 1 versus Colorado. The rest of the season for TCU was historical, but now Sonny Dykes' squad will need to replace Heisman runner-up Max Duggan, which shouldn't be hard at all with Chandler Morris on the roster. He comes off back-to-back redshirt years and is definitely ready to lead the Horned Frogs. He did get one start against Baylor a couple of years ago where he played really well as your traditional college quarterback. He may be a better athlete than Duggan and a more accurate passer if you will. If TCU manages a top 10 finish, Morris will receive credit. Cam Rising may not have received any Heisman votes last season, but he will be in that conversation this year. Cam is a senior quarterback who I can see in the NFL very soon. He turned 24 this year and decided to stay at Utah as he loves this team. He definitely has all the tools it takes to run an offense, as he ran for 6 rushing touchdowns last season and passed for just over 3,000 yards, which doesn't seem like much compared to the other quarterbacks on this list, but he did have a bad line last year and was forced to improvise a lot, which he was good at, taking only 9 sacks before getting injured in the Rose Bowl against Penn State. We'll see if his ACL tear affects his Heisman campaign, as he will likely miss this game tonight against Florida, but this Utah defense is great and Kent will surely excel at leading the offense, so winning the conference again will give him that edge over last year's winner Caleb Williams. Originally, I had Joe Milton here, but Sam Hartman played nice against Air Force last week and passing for 241 yards and 4 touchdowns for a 232 rating. It is the 24-year-old's first season with the Fighting Irish after transferring from Wake Forest, where I thought he was carried, to be honest. Those receivers were all 6'4 plus, and Hartman only had to ever throw high. After seeing him transition to a new offense so smoothly already, Hartman has already proved me wrong. In his first year as a Washington Husky, Michael Penix Jr. led up the West Coast, passing for over 300 yards in 10 different games. He has 2 of the best receivers in Rome Odunze and Jalen McMillan. Penix is one of the better pocket passers in Division I, but he's just as calm passing outside of the pocket too. His composure blended with the Huskies offense so well, allowing them to win 11 games last year. With a lot of hype going into this season, Michael Penix Jr. will surely live up to it, aiming to have a season similar to last, which he had over 4,600 yards and 31 touchdowns. He may even have 5,000 yards this year. Entering his 6th year of college, Jordan Travis is set to turn heads once again. Last season, he completed 64% of his passes for 3,200 yards. These numbers may not seem enough to win any awards, but his improvement in his passing ability has been noticeable. Who was once a raw prospect has elevated to a Jalen Hurts level. Should Florida State be a strong team this year, you can expect to see Jordan Travis get first place Heisman votes.
I came back to win a championship.
Bo Nix is a quarterback who I was in awe of last year. I was a big fan of his in 2019 when he was at Auburn, and I still am now. I remember my beliefs then was that he would lead Auburn to the college football playoff, which unfortunately never happened. Yet, he has now transferred to Oregon where he shined last year, passing for over 3,500 yards and rushing for 14 touchdowns. He likes to run and he's great at throwing outside the pocket. I loved his game against Washington State last year where he kept his team alive by throwing a 50-yard bomb and running it in for 2 points in a comeback. Drake Maye is someone you would know I don't like if you watched my last video. The Tar Heels lost each of their last 4 games last season, and that can be accredited to Drake Maye's underwhelming performance. Before that point, Maye was averaging 341 passing yards a game, but in those last 4 games, he threw for only 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. His 66% completion percentage is among the best in the nation, along with his 38 passing touchdowns. Many had the redshirt sophomore in their top 3. I'm not one of them. Speaking of top 3, I'll say a few names who will make their way into this conversation throughout the season. They are Quinn Ewers, who is sort of improving at this moment. I'm a fan of his actually. He threw for over 2,100 yards in 10 games of action, and he's a decent field general for Texas, who I believe is the second best team behind Georgia. There's a reason he was number 1 recruit in the class of 2021. Next, I want to shout out Marvin Harrison Jr., who's arguably the best player in all of college football. He reminds me of AJ Green, and he'll likely have another 1,000-yard season as he tries to replicate what Devontae Smith did a few years back. Lastly, a lot of Georgia players, so Carson Beck is an honorable mention from the best team. Following an ACL tear, it is pretty impractical to have Blake Corum number 3. Whether or not he's 100%, Donovan Edwards will take a lot of carries, and he could find himself competing for the Heisman. If you don't remember, Blake Corum was 7th in voting a year ago. He's one of my favorite players to watch. I'm glad he returned to Michigan so I can hopefully see him play more. Otherwise, like I said, Donovan Edwards may be in the Heisman conversation. Who knows? Their offensive line is definitely good enough, and they are a top 5 team this year. Number 2, Jaden Daniels. By far the best quarterback in the SEC, Jaden Daniels was electrifying last season, passing for nearly 3,000 yards and rushing to close to 900 yards in his first year after transferring from Arizona State. One of the greatest concerns about whether Jaden can win the Heisman is his passing ability. Still, I feel like he's already proven he can lead an offense. You won't see him pass deep much, but his blazing speed combined with his prudent playstyle will earn him votes at the end of 2023. No Heisman candidate list can be serious without Caleb Williams at the top. He won the Heisman last year as a sophomore and is favored to repeat as he's a consistent #1 overall pick for the next year's NFL draft. Passing for 4,500 yards, Williams drew comparisons to Patrick Mahomes for his elite accuracy and vision. Caleb Williams has already started his campaign with 278 yards and 4 touchdowns against San Jose State. USC is currently ranked 6th right now, and there's a lot of pressure on Caleb, who's handling it really well. We'll see, as Caleb Williams is looking forward to breaking even more records en route to becoming only the 2nd ever repeat Heisman Trophy winner. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave who you think should have been included, as I want to hear from you. See you tomorrow.